What's up, guys? Another episode of Shut the Punk Up here. Today, I have on the awesome guest, Finn McKenty. I've had him on my show before talking about Punk Rock MBA, which you guys may know him from, but he did step away from that part of his life, and he has been a creator for a really long time. He's been a designer, and the stuff he's been posting on X has been just blowing my mind lately. So I'm really curious about his take on AI and the future of AI for creators, but also what he thinks if you know where we're going with this from here. So I'm going to bring him up on stage so he can kind of speak to that. Finn, thanks so much for coming back, dude. Yeah, how's this all this new AI stuff changed your day to day for your what you do for a living?
Yeah. Well, like you said, a lot of people know me from YouTube, but I've had, to me, I look at YouTube as sort of like a side quest that ended up being bigger than I expected it to be.
Hmm.
My actual career has been in design and marketing for about 25 years, which is horrifying to say because it makes me feel very old. But I mean, it's the truth. The first time I got paid to do design was, I think, in probably 1999. So, it's been 25 years. Um, and I just the way my brain is, whether some combination of like high IQ and autism and whatever, um, I've always been sort of, had one foot in technology and one foot in creativity. And, to me, those two things work together. My job has always been, I've done, some version of product design and marketing forever. And so my job has always been like figure out what people want, make it, and then get them to buy it. And technology has always been a part of that. I got on the internet in 1994, 95, like whenever Netscape first came out. I remember Mosaic being sort of the popular browser, and then Netscape came out.
Hmm.
And that was a big deal. And so to me, they've always been hand in hand. It's like, well, what do I want to do? How can I use technology to do that in a way that wasn't possible before? And the way my brain works is very technical. So I've always, that's sort of been my source of advantage, I would say, is figuring out how to use technology to do a cool creative thing. So AI is not different to me than, when I remember when the internet was new. And then after that, open source software, I got really into that like in the late 90s, early 2000s. I got into like, Linux and stuff like that, which feels very similar to the current moment of just like this explosion of tools. And then after that, there was sort of the Flash and Shockwave era, which was really cool. And I was very into that. And then after that, you had things like WordPress and e-commerce and stuff like that. Shopify came out. And so there's always, I mean, I remember when like digital photography was pretty new. Like one of the people I've worked with for years, a guy named Chase Jarvis, was like the first kind of well-known high profile photographer to like embrace digital and then embrace like the iPhone. Like I remember he put out a book, I think in 2008 or 2009, of iPhone photos, which was the first time anybody did that. And
Hmm.
people laughed at him and said he was an idiot and that it was going to kill the industry and blah, 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 blah. And so, my point is like, I've seen this movie play out so many times where there's some sort of new technology that enables smart, creative people to do new shit. And everyone says it's bad and it's going to ruin the world. And it never does. It always ends up just making the world a better place and enables people to do more cool shit. So, AI is not fun. Like it's not different than any of those things to me.
Yeah.
And I think maybe for a lot of people, it's the first time they've experienced that. So maybe to them it feels different. And I will say that AI is definitely more, the one sort of big difference is that AI is a lot more technical. Like to understand how AI works on a technical level, it is fundamentally much more complex than really anything else. And fortunately, I have like a pretty decent background in computer science. So
Nice.
that part isn't really hard for me. I think it's fun, but I can understand how it feels a little bit overwhelming to a lot of people. But,
Sure.
at the end of the day, I would just look at it the same way as social media, digital photography, Shopify, any of these other things that came along and allowed you to do stuff that you couldn't do before or that was too expensive to do before.
So that's the thing too, is like with creators, we have this like the whole point of like, like most creators feel like, anything's possible. Like they can create anything. And then that's the idea. And but now that like AI is here, it really expands what is possible for a lot of people, and it makes it a little bit easier for
Yeah.
them. But like when you look at the explosion of AI just over the last few years, um, what were you say what would you say are like the biggest surprises that came up to you that kind of just
The
changed the game?
well, my sort of general pattern on any sort of technology is I generally hear about it very early, but I don't jump on it until I kind of see some sort of inflection point where I feel like, okay, this is going somewhere. For
Yeah.
example, like I never got into crypto or Web3 or VR because I was, paying attention to it, monitoring the situation, as they say. um, but I never really saw it material go anywhere where I was like, okay, I need to do something with this.
Yeah.
So with AI, first of all, AI has been around since I think neural nets are kind of one of the fundamental technologies here. Neural nets, I want to say in fact, I want to say they've been around since the 60s. I first heard about neural nets in like 1996, I think. Um, so, the LLMs and stuff are kind of new, but there was the first sort of chatbot as we would think about it was called Eliza, which came out, I think, in 95 or 96. So I've been aware of this stuff for a long time. And I remember specifically like GPT-2 came out, I want to say in 2021. And people were like, oh, whoa, this thing called GPT can write JavaScript. And it was just writing like a couple lines of very basic JavaScript. But even that was like, whoa, okay, this is interesting. But it still wasn't really like practical. And so I kept sort of watching it and stuff. And I would say GPT-4 was the first time where I felt like it was good enough to actually be useful,
Yeah.
which I want to say was the tail end of 2024 or maybe early 25, I don't remember. But GPT-4 was sort of like when, okay, this is useful. And then the next one I'd say was Gemini 2.5 was like a very noticeable upgrade. That's when it started being usable for text. And then GPT-4 images, like you remember the Studio Ghibli sort of
Yeah.
trend when everyone was
Yeah.
doing those images. Do you remember that?
I think with like what I noticed with the Studio Ghibli thing is like obviously it's nice and it's trendy. It's kind of cheap and at people's fingertips or whatever.
With regard to like images in particular, Nano Banana Pro was a huge inflection point, which came out, I want to say in November of 2025. And that was the first time that, like, I'd say you can pretty much do whatever you want with Nano Banana Pro. I mean, it has limitations like anything else, but Nano Banana Pro basically made any kind of image generation a solved problem, more or less, or at least pretty close to it.
Okay, so the other day I was going through the Taco Bell drive-through and uh it was like an AI system that was taking my order. And it kind of like
Hmm.
threw me off a little bit, but, um, then, like, it fucked up my entire order because it wasn't, like, properly integrated with what they were doing inside, so I'm assuming this will all get worked out over time, the kinks will get fixed and stuff. But I get up to the front and the workers there, the person who greeted me was basically this person who pretty much had no teeth left in them, and I'm just thinking to myself,
Hmm.
no AI completely fucked up my order. I would actually prefer that to be taking my order than the person that I was greeted by. And I know that sounds a little fucked up, maybe, but like there is like a real aspect to this where certain jobs are gonna go away for people. I think that people are just gonna have to adapt. I do think that a lot of like the fear-based reaction of people like everyone's gonna lose their jobs is like way unhinged and probably a little ridiculous. But like the my point is like, I think that it's probably better now that it's still this is very breaking still. Like this is still very fresh into the industry in a lot of ways. If people are concerned about that, why aren't they trying to learn more about how to use AI and better their skill sets? This is like what's bothering me the most. I don't know. Do you think that the reaction to AI is just like mostly fear based, for losing their jobs and stuff? Or
Well, I think there's a few layers to it. Number one is the people running these AI companies. Really, I have no idea why they keep messaging it that way. That is like insanely stupid to me. Like, why would you tell people our product is going to take your job? Like, like uh, that's not that's not a good move. You know what I
yeah,
mean? Like, if you want people to hate you, you just figure out a good way to get there.
yeah,
So they didn't do themselves any favors there. Um, Number two, I'm very certain that foreign actors, specifically probably China,
yeah,
are amplifying a lot of the stuff, like all the stuff about water, which is like basically false. Um, like it's just not true. I mean, there's some legitimate, concerns about power and water
yeah,
usage, of course, but like this whole narrative, that a data center uses as much energy as a small city. Okay, well, there's like 6,000 data centers in the U.S. So clearly, we don't have like 6,000 data centers using as much energy or water as a small city, because we would all like you know be dying of thirst if that was the case. So it's like obviously not true. I'm very sure that China is like amplifying a lot of that stuff because they want us to lose, and people are of course susceptible to that stuff. So that's number two. And then number three though is like a lot of people it, it, I'm trying to think of the right way to say this. It doesn't sound shitty. I think there's a lot of people that are just really not capable of using AI in a meaningful way. In the sense of like it takes, like I mentioned before, it takes a particular type of brain, so like, or a particular type of cognitive style. So like there's a model for this in cognitive psychology called like E-type versus S-type cognition. Like S-type cognition is like systemizing. And so this is why a lot of people who do best with AI are autistic, because they have like highly systemizing cognitive styles like I do. Most people do not have that.
all right. So, we've recently had some issues where the government was trying to, create a deal with Anthropic so that they could use. I think they were trying to like intertwine their like Claude and all this with, um, like their surveillance stuff, and maybe I'm not getting the full picture there.
No, no, no. I'll explain what's
Yeah,
I'll,
go
I'll,
ahead.
I'll
Yeah,
explain what's happening because I know a little
sure.
bit about this. So, for context, I come from like a military family. Like my dad was in the Navy. He was a helmsman on a destroyer escort. My grandpa flew a B-17 in World War II. My wife's dad was something similar to like a recon ranger in the South Vietnamese army. My brother-in-law is in the army. My sister-in-law is in the army. One of my other brother-in-laws was a SEAL medic. Most of the people in my neighborhood are in the army. A lot of like it's like a nicer neighborhood, so it's a lot of like special forces people. One of my neighbors is a Night Stalker pilot, which is the helicopter pilots that like nabbed Maduro. Not saying he was part of that operation, but
Mm.
his those the guys that did it. Another one's a ranger, Green Beret in the neighborhood. A good friend of mine for about 10 years is a Green Beret. So like I know a little bit more about this stuff than probably the average person does. And so there's people may have heard of the company Palantir, and
Yep.
Palantir does a lot of stuff. Um, One of the things that Palantir does is like they just showed a demo of this, integrates a lot of intelligence. So you've got whatever 9 million different intelligence sources, like from social media, which a lot of that, they call it open source intel. A lot of that stuff is actually pretty good from what I'm told. And then all the other data sources, and it's way more than any human could possibly, interpret on its own.
Sure.
But Palantir's product, one of the things they'll do is like integrate all those data sources and help you basically figure out where the bad guys are. So like my brother-in-law does something similar to this with like artillery, of basically figuring out where the bad guys are and where we direct our artillery fire. Um, and so Palantir is the contractor with the government, and Anthropic, so they're what's called the prime contractor. They're the ones that actually has a contract with the government. And then Anthropic provides the AI layer of that. They're a subcontractor to Palantir. So the agreement is between Palantir and the U.S. government. Anthropic is the subcontractor, and at some point, basically, they sort of started saying, "Well, I don't know if we're comfortable with how Palantir is using our technology, because we don't want this to be used for autonomous weapon systems or mass surveillance of American citizens or whatever." So there's a couple questions there. Um, just like on a very basic level, is do you think that a subcontractor should essentially, have veto power over tactical and strategic military decisions, which to me is insane? This would be like the person who supplies metal to McDonnell Douglas or Northrop Grumman or whatever, being like, I don't know if I don't, we don't really like how you guys are using these bombers. And you're like, cool. Um, Thank you for the opinion, but we've got a mission to run.
Yeah,
you
like, well,
know,
like, part of it's
like
like you sell
we're
a
not,
product to somebody and, like, is it your business how they use that product? This is the whole argument about the Silk Road. Do you remember the Silk Road situation back in the day?
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
people were, like, selling shit on there, and people who were receiving them were doing things that they probably weren't supposed to, but is that the person who, you know, created the thing that sells it? Is that his fault? I don't know.
Well, I mean, that's a sort of a legal, that's a whole other question.
Sure.
But I understand your point. But so like, there's like, just functionally, do we think that, like, the idea to me that a subcontractor is going to like have veto power over the way that the military is using this product in the context of literally the most high stakes dynamic situations on the planet, like literally nuclear war is
Mhm.
like an option here. And the idea that you're going to have to like call a subcontractor and be like, hey, are you guys okay with this, is crazy. Second, the idea that some, computer guy in fucking Sunnyvale or wherever they are is, even remotely qualified to make judgment calls about, battlefield decisions is insane. Like, to my knowledge, Dario has never been in the military. Like, the idea that his input is relevant on those is crazy, in the same way as he's not asking Pete Hegseth for his input on how they design their next fucking frontier model.
Right.
Because what does Pete Hegseth know about fucking AI research? Nothing. Well, Dario knows nothing about how to kill people. Like I don't think a lot of these like computer people understand how fucking good, like especially like special forces, like the people at the top of the military in the American military are so fucking good at their job. Like the idea that you have any fucking business like second guessing them is so arrogant. Like I can't my mind cannot even process the level of arrogance to think that you know better than the people doing this shit at the highest levels of the military is fucking insane. Like even if you hate the military, whatever, blah blah blah, like just the skill gap and the knowledge gap, it's like the level of arrogance to think that it just is
What you're saying is dead on,
like
dude. I mean,
literally
I was in the
insane,
infantry, so I know what you're talking about. Like, there's a lot of people that know
right?
a lot fucking more than what the general public we aren't equipped to handle all that information either, so do you
Yeah. So, take like someone like a Green Beret. You understand, like these people are like
yeah.
whatever, third standard deviation IQ and elite athletes, like these are not fucking normal people. You know, same for anybody in special forces, let alone the kind of people that are going on these like, so like Anthropic had some issue apparently with like the Maduro raid in Venezuela. Like those are like literally the best people on the fucking planet. Like those helicopter pilots, you know, those night stalker guys, the ones in particular on that mission are probably like literally the three best helicopter pilots on the fucking planet. So the idea that some fucking computer guy has any meaningful input on how they do that mission is insane.
Do you think companies like Anthropic are trying to solve legitimate safety concerns, or are they just kind of trying to like cover their ass because they're scared of like the public opinion of Anthropic being tied to controversial things like Palantir?
Probably a little bit of both. I mean, it's fair, you know, like I'm sure there are legitimate, you know, limitations to these models and those applications. And by all means, you know, Anthropic should definitely be telling the military about that. Like, hey, we feel really good about using them in these situations. In these situations, maybe not quite there. So we would suggest you either don't use them in those situations or be careful if you do. But it's up to the military to decide. I mean, any operation there is risk. You know, when you're like the Maduro thing, when you're flying a fucking Chinook 30 fucking feet off the ground at top speed with no navigation lights, that's extremely fucking risky. Like they're aware that there's a very good likelihood that something goes wrong and everyone fucking dies. Like that is always a consideration, you know. So the idea, the term people use for this, like safetyism, you know, the idea that these things can be totally de-risked, it's just not how it works. So I think there are some legitimate concerns, and by all means, they should be. Their job is to make sure that the military is aware of what those concerns are, and then let the people in the military decide. You know, they decide what they want to do, knowing the risks. So I think that's fair. Um, but I think a lot of it is probably there's a lot of, you know, sort of, you know, there's a lot of woke people inside those companies and the media and stuff like that that, you
Yeah.
know, where optics do matter a lot. And I think they've got themselves in a tough situation of like, well, if you want to do business with the Department of War, your shit's going to be used to kill people. That's like literally the Department of War's job is to kill people. That is their that is their entire purpose. So if you don't want people to use your shit to kill people, then you probably you need to maybe consider different customers because that's the only thing they're going to do with it.
Right.
You know?
No, 100%, dude. And honestly, like I understand, you know, I'm probably one of them, you know, like there's legitimate concern there where, you know, the surveillance state is huge. There's nothing we can do to escape that. We live in
Right,
the real world. That stuff's happening. We can't stop that.
right,
Um you know, but there is like legitimate concern of like, you know, too many companies, you know, working hand in hand with the government. You got Palantir doing this. I know they just like bought like a part of Intel too, so they can try to, you know, help run this whole shindig. And that like every company gets into these contracts
yeah,
knowing what's going on, right? It's not like they're
right.
delusional or stupid. They made frickin' these huge
Well,
awesome
it
systems.
might be both of those things actually, but they
Well,
shouldn't be.
okay,
Yeah.
yeah, right. Well, but um I don't know. Do you think that open AI models kind of help at least balance the power a little bit? I mean, we'll never know what's going on the inside
Right.
with all that, but there is a lot of power with open source AI that's just readily available to anybody.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, again, I don't, you know, I can't comment on the specifics because, you know, the details matter a lot and I don't know what they are. But we can't, I mean, you can't set a precedent. It's like, let's think about the logic here. I don't trust the military to make decisions about using this technology. I trust some unelected, inexperienced person at some private company to make the decision that makes no sense. Like, you know, laws exist. Like the way to handle this is through making laws Congress, blah blah blah. And of course, those people are fucking completely inept as well. But the centralizing power in the hands of Anthropic is not better than centralizing it in the hands of Pete Hegseth or whoever you don't like.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? Like, you're
100%.
just putting it in the hands of a different person who's, like, basically unaccountable, like, so that's not a solution.
Right.
So, if people have concerns, totally valid, but, trusting them to the billionaire CEO of some tech company, I think, is not a good solution.
Well, and this kind of does tie into something you kind of just posted, um, like within the last day or so. You made an argument that AI founders shouldn't be public personalities because it makes their technology super controversial. What made you
Yeah.
think that? Well, I agree, by the
Um,
way. So,
well, I have a little bit of experience as a public figure and lots of other people I know, I know that world very well. And, some people are just not likable and charismatic. I wouldn't say I'm the most likable person in the world. Um, I'm not the worst, but, you know, um, I'm very aware of, there's a lot of people that no matter what I say are not going to like me. Um, and I think with these AI, leaders in particular, they're not they're not likable, charismatic people in the eyes of normies because AI is so inherently complex from a technical perspective that you have to basically be an autistic weirdo to start one of these companies. Like you just have to be.
yeah,
And those people are just not good at communicating with normies. So the more they talk, the more it makes people dislike them. Like people fucking hate Sam Altman,
yeah,
and whether that's justified or not is irrelevant. They don't like him. He is not a likable person in the eyes of the general public. Why does he keep getting up there and talking? Every time he says stuff, it makes people hate him more.
yep,
And I'm not saying I don't really care when I don't react emotionally like that, so I don't care. But I'm just observing that the more he talks, the more
the
people
more
hate him.
people hate him. And the more
You
people
know,
hate ChatGPT. Like, I think,
right?
Anthropic had like record sales the other week whenever they dropped out of that contract, by the way.
Well, yeah, maybe. I
Is
mean, I don't.
reactionary, but
Yeah, and I don't even know how much to believe any of that stuff because it's like the media is so fucking woke
yeah,
that we know the story they want to tell, which is OpenAI is bad and Anthropic is good because they stood up to the evil government. I don't know what's true and what's whatever, but I know that's their agenda. So it could be true, but I filter it.
I think AI companies should act and like respond more like utility companies, not like
Yeah.
brands. I think that's the problem.
Yes. It's not. They're not doing themselves any favors.
It would make adoption so much easier if they would just treat themselves as utility companies. That's what they are,
Yeah,
like
like, hey, like Dario, Sam, you're not obligated to speak in public.
yeah, right,
You don't have to.
right. It's
Do you know what does the CEO of Toyota think about anything? I have no idea.
yeah, right.
I don't know who it is. I don't know what he thinks about anything.
And there might be a few like occasional exceptions. You've got like Elon Musk who does a really good job with his brand, but he's
Yeah,
also like
people hate him
I
more.
know.
Like the only person people hate more than Elon is Trump, and
Yeah,
it's close.
you're right. A lot of
You
people
know?
might hate Elon more than Trump because
Yes,
arguably Elon got Trump elected. So
I would say he for sure did.
yeah. um,
So, like, there's no you don't have to, like, be there's sort of this assumption that you have to be a public person if you're the founder of a company. You don't have to be, and, in a lot of cases, you probably shouldn't be.
mm. Do
Like,
you
d if do it if it helps you, but I don't think anybody would argue that it's helping them, so just don't do it.
I mean, I'm sure you're familiar. What's that like? I think like Disney Pixar movie where like there's all the fat people sitting in couches
Yeah,
and they're just like watching, and that's like they're so completely tuned out to reality, right? And this is like it's this is how it is. It's like Plato's cave all over again. A lot of
yeah,
people don't know how the government uses AI, but
right.
truthfully, like maybe it's better that a lot of them don't. You know what I
Well,
mean? Like,
it is better because, it's like that movie A Few Good Men where it says you want the truth, you can't handle the truth. They can't handle the truth. Like,
true.
the truth is that there are people who have to make the decision to fucking kill a bunch of people. Like, there are people who are like, we're going to shoot artillery or missiles here and we're going to kill everybody. And that's fucking uncomfortable for a lot of people.
Yeah.
But that's a necessary thing in order for the rest of us to have safety and freedom.
Yeah.
So, that's what, like, I mean, these special forces guys, they're not fucking normal people at all. Like, they're fucking psychos.
Yeah.
And if you knew them, not you, you might be okay with it, but if most people knew who these people are, they would be terrified.
Yeah.
Like, these like Delta and Green Beret guys are not fucking normal. They're like literal fucking movie, like kind of heroes, but kind of villains.
I
Like you think
I
about,
went through training with a bunch of them, and I'll say,
yeah,
dude, like they are definitely a different breed. Some of them literally enlisted just so they could kill people,
for sure.
and they're open
Yes.
about
Like
it, right?
you think about these guys that are like running 2 missions a night for months, killing 5, 10, 20 people a night for months and months and months, and they come home, fucking play Xbox, come back to, the base, play Xbox, go to sleep and do it again the next day, and it doesn't bother them at all.
Right. It's so wild.
Like, it literally it doesn't bother. They're like, "Cool, okay, yeah, let's do it again tomorrow.
Yeah.
What's for dinner?" Like, that's literally who they are,
It is.
and, like, that is a very uncomfortable thing for most people to process,
But this
but
is the reality that we live in, so what do we do with it? You know what I mean? Like, I don't know, I
yes,
feel like you can't you could try to legislate that all of these AI companies can't intertwine their technology with the military, and guess what? The military is gonna find somebody that's gonna do it anyway. So,
or China will do it.
China will do it for sure.
Yes.
I actually, speaking of China, this is not okay. I'm going to talk about Andrew Yang. Well, I actually don't know if it's Chinese or not, but
Yeah, he is.
is he okay? So
Yeah, he's
he just
probably
mentioned
Southern
the other day,
Chinese.
like he was saying, like we should stop taxing humans and start taxing AI. And the first thing that came to my mind was like, well, if he wants to like fund this UBI like pipe dream that he's got, and it's insane. And like
Yeah.
I fucking hate it, but it's like the guy was saying if this legitimately happened, then all these AI companies would just go to China and they would operate out of China so they didn't have to operate under American laws and get taxed
Yes.
for it. It's so
Yes.
stupid. And you can't regulate AI production in that way either because it's
No.
so open source these days.
Right, right, exactly. Like, all of this, like, comes down to me to the conflict between realism and idealism, and a lot of people in the West have had very easy lives where they've never had to sort of confront this reality, and, fortunately, I haven't had to myself either, but a lot of people close to me have, like my wife's family are refugees from Vietnam. Like, her dad fucking fought. He joined when he was 17. He fought for 7 fucking straight years in the jungle. Like, he's, basically like recon ranger type thing for 7 fucking years. No, like, Americans would come home after 9 months. This motherfucker had to fight for fucking 7 years, then got thrown in a communist prison, broke the family out of prison, stole a boat, took them to Malaysia. Then they lived in a refugee camp for a couple years, finally made it here, and they started out a new life. And then
Dude's
he
a
went back to
badass.
school at the age of 40 and got a fucking computer science degree
Wow.
when, when he, didn't even speak English.
That's amazing.
Um, or like my dad was correction, was in the Navy and then he's a corrections officer, like literally locked in a cage with murderers for, you know, 8, 10 hours a day for decades. Like, you know, there are a lot of people who have never had to confront the fact that, sometimes the world is black and white, kill or be killed. That's just how it is. And it's ugly, you know. Probably like half my family's also like been to prison for various different things. And,
Hmm.
it is an ugly fact that that's just how the world is. So like you don't have to like the idea of the military using AI to kill people, but if they don't do it, someone else will. And you're going to be the one. Like, do you want to be on Do you want to be on the giving or receiving end of it? That's your choice.
Thank you for speaking reality. This is not a utopian podcast. I got an audience all over the map here, but I really do appreciate your insight on this, dude.
It is just a fact. Do
It
you
is,
want to
yeah.
be the one launching the missiles or getting the missiles launched at you? Because that's your choice.
Do you okay, like kind of taking it a little bit back to the creative side. So all these people who are scared to death of losing their jobs,
Yeah.
um, all this, where would you suggest that they start to start developing a skill set that makes them, I don't want to say like AI proof, but like I don't know, like I'm not worried about it with for myself because I'm in it,
You
but
should, yeah, there's no, it's, it's not that big of a deal. Like it's just, it really isn't. It's the same as like when people started using email or Excel or anything else. It's just another fucking application or computer. That's it. Like it's not the idea that like, okay, well, how we've been 6 months away from everyone losing their job for what, 3 years now?
yeah, true.
Are people losing their jobs, all over the place because of AI? They're not. There's a couple big tech companies that have done some layoffs, which they claim are because of AI. I don't even think that's true. I think they overhired a lot in the ZERP era, and now they're just getting rid of people that they shouldn't have hired in the first place. And even if they are laying off some of those people because of AI, okay, so a bunch of engineers, a couple, like it's like tens of thousands of people, which I don't mean to, diminish the reality of that for those people. But if there's, say, 50,000 or even 100,000 software engineers that lost their job, okay, they'll be fine.
Yeah.
Like these are software engineers, like they're fine. They made millions of dollars,
Yeah.
over the past 15 years. We don't need to worry about them. Like, are forklift drivers losing their jobs because of AI? No.
If
You
anything,
know,
AI, like companies starting to use AI, it's definitely helping companies gauge where they're productive and where they're not being
yeah,
productive. And I think that that's probably where a lot of those layoffs are coming in,
yes.
because they're realizing like, hey, like we're putting all this money into this. Why? Where we need to cut back, and reduce our output spending and all this.
Yeah, and
So
like Elon cut Twitter by 80%, and I would say the product is better than ever.
yeah, 100%, dude. Yeah, for sure. Um,
What does that tell you?
it
Those people should have never been hired. They didn't do shit.
well, you
I've
look at
worked in tech
the
for a long time. There's a lot of these people do fucking nothing.
yeah.
I'm sorry, they should be laid off. They don't fucking do anything.
It's kind of funny. I was actually, we were talking about Weavy a little bit, and I love Weavy, but I was looking online. I was like, man, what does their career section look like? And I look on there, and it's like it shows like a bunch of their employees just laying around in a ball pit, and I'm like, dude, what the hell is this? But this is real, dude. Like this, like these are the
Well,
people who are
I'll give
getting
you the
laid
flip
off.
side of that is I just talked to some of their people the other day. They're in Tel Aviv, so you know, in reality, they're in bomb shelters because Iran's launching fucking missiles at them. So
it's
uh,
it's crazy.
there is that side of it as well.
Yeah. That's nuts, dude. I know they've got like a bunch of different parts, but like, Silicon Valley has this like rep, like, oh yeah, you've got all these like tech guys who just go out
Yeah.
and they're just like they're so chill and they get that they'll do 1 hour work and they'll spend 7 hours
Yeah.
just talking and having fun all day.
Yes. I'm sorry. Those people should be fucking unemployed. That's
100%.
ridiculous.
Yeah.
Also, like, do those people have any idea how much this makes everyone fucking hate them?
Right.
It is, the optics of that are so fucking awful. Like,
Yeah.
if that is actually your company culture, fine. Keep it a fucking secret. Don't,
Yeah.
like, have you seen that fucking horrible TikTok of like Gen Z the Gen Z girl boss and a Bob, that one? Have you seen that
I
one?
I I don't know if I have. No, I can't
It's
say.
all these fucking like 26-year-old white women like dancing at the office
Oh
and
yeah,
like,
yeah, yeah. Okay. Yeah, I totally saw
oh
that one.
my
Yeah.
God. It is the most horrible, like, you could not design something to make people hate you more than that. Because yeah, I look at people like my dad who, literally babysitted fucking rapists and murderers for 20 years so that you don't have to deal with them. guarantee you he didn't make as much as any of the people in that video. How do
Mm.
you think people like that look? Or the people that drove a fucking forklift that, because again, people are so divorced from reality. They think food comes from a grocery store. No, somebody had to fucking drive a fucking combine harvester or whatever, and pick that shit up and put it on a truck and drive it across the country and put it in a freezer, so that you could go pick it up off the shelf like it just materialized out of nowhere. How do you think those people feel when they see these fucking day in the life TikToks of all these like pampered tech people making 5 times more than they do to work fucking 2 hours a day and drink smoothies?
Right.
I don't feel bad for any of those people if they get fucking laid off because of AI.
Not at all.
Sorry.
Yeah. Not at
Good.
all. I'm
Good.
actually
I want you
excited
to get
about
laid
the
off. It's
overall
fucking
production
disgusting.
of everything. Like, I feel like, I'm more like in the, contractor industry. So like there's a lot of things about this that like AI just can't replicate or do at all. Like
Yeah.
you can't there it's not gonna go out and be able to like excavate and know
Right.
all the other stuff that's going on. Like that's
There's a lot
not
of stuff it could do sort of before that in terms of like optimizing inventory and order quantities and shit like that so that,
yeah. Or
the
even like
materials
managing
you arrive.
employees, hours,
Yeah.
stuff like this. Like this is like stuff that's very possible. Like our maybe
Yeah.
our the people who used to do our payroll might be more at risk than, anyone else, essentially.
Or
But
or maybe they can just do a better job now, I
yeah, true.
I don't know. I mean, a lot of these industries contracting is a great example of it. I was talking to a guy the other day that sells, like, construction materials. He said they still use paper invoices a lot.
They do. It's true.
These are very I did printing for, like, 7 years, which is basically the same thing. It's like standing in a fucking loud, hot, you know, warehouse full of machines for 10 hours at a time doing repetitive shit. So I'm pretty familiar with how these kind of blue collar things work. And you know, we've got a long way to go before anybody there is thinking about AI in any capacity.
If
Let's put it
anything,
that
like
way.
these people who are scared of that or like the people who are on payroll, they should be trying to learn how to use AI to make them better at their job.
Yeah, yeah. So
That's where they
that's all.
have their job security. Well, what
Yeah,
about for creators? Like this is like kind of like for people who create art. Like
yeah,
I guess they do it with music, and like the AI music has progressively gotten a lot better too. It's kind of crazy, but like specifically talking about like actual art design, like kind of
yeah.
what you're doing, where dude, it's freaking awesome. But should people be scared of this?
Why would I mean?
No,
Why? What's there to be scared of?
right? Well, like what do they need to do? Obviously, like there's a lot of purists out there like, AI is taking away from real art, whatever you want to call that. But like AI, like
Well, I
art
mean,
has
I
always
don't.
been a
This is
fusion of all these different things. It
here.
always
Here's a
has.
good example of something I will say that won't be likable to a lot of people, but sorry, but I'm a better artist and designer than 99% of the people criticizing this shit. I
Mhm.
just am. I've been doing it for a long time. I'm good at it. Like, I am the real artist you're talking about.
Right,
It's not taking anything away from me or anybody. Like, nobody I know who's like good at their shit is worried about this stuff in the slightest.
right.
So it's not going to, I think, it is going to redefine the job in a lot of ways. So, like, let's take photography, for example. The job, if you are a photographer, your job is to deliver great images. Whether you take those with a camera or make them with an AI model or some combination of those two is irrelevant. Your job is to deliver those images. So a lot of creative people, I think, get sort of tied to the process rather than the outcome. And I think they're just going to have to get over that. Like, I mean, it's the same thing. I remember when digital photography became basically viable in a professional context. There were a lot of people who were upset about it because they like developing film and blah blah blah. Well, I don't know what to tell you. The world changes, and you don't always get to have things exactly the way you want them to be. And I would just learn to be excited about the future rather than cling to the past.
Yeah,
And a lot of the things that creative people want to sort of cling to are not creative at all. Like doing like Photoshop retouching is it's not fun. Like
Right.
it sucks. It's tedious. Like me and two other people managed the photo retouching for Abercrombie and Fitch and Hollister at the sort of peak of the brand. So I would say that, you know, that is a brand where photography was a bigger part of it than just about, I mean, you remember all those pictures of the hot guys and all that type of shit. Like photography was like the core of our brand. Those were like amazing photos by Bruce Weber, like iconic shit. And me and two other people managed all the retouching there. So I know a lot about this. And like, it is fucking tedious. Like photoshopping out all the fucking, literally photoshopping out pubic hairs on some guy's dick, that's like sticking out the top of his shorts. Like that's, people spend a lot of time doing that stuff. Like, hey, listen, if you want to still like manually Photoshop out pubic hairs, go for it. But I would much rather give that to AI so that I can think about the creative stuff. So like a lot of the stuff people want to cling to is not even creative at all.
Yeah.
It's just like tedious, busy work. The creative stuff is still fucking hard.
Yeah.
That didn't get any easier. Like, let's take digital photography or digital video. Like, did digital cameras make it easier to take a great photo? I wouldn't say so.
No, for sure. And I have a good friend of mine that always says his saying is "build, don't bitch." And
Yes.
like a lot of the people who are complaining are just people who like to present problems and no solutions. So this
Yes.
world's always
Well, I can tell you
evolved,
where that's going to lead you.
right? The world has evolved, you know, over and over again. Like in my lifetime, the internet has made things so crazy, and AI is going to do the same
Totally.
thing. So if you don't adapt, you'll get left behind. That's just
But
how it is.
that's true. But I would look at like, I want people to like get out of the fear based thinking and be
Mhm.
excited about it because it is exciting. Like, think about what you could do as a photographer or illustrator or designer if you had if you had unlimited time and money. What would you do?
Yeah,
Because you basically do now.
right.
Like if you had a photo shoot and if you had an idea for a photo shoot and you're like, oh, but what if we did this same thing in 20 different locations all over the planet? Well, I could never afford to do that, with a physical photo shoot. Okay. So do one photo shoot in person and then use AI to version that out in 20 different locations. And now this cool creative idea that wasn't possible before is possible. So I would look at it as like being excited about what creative possibilities it unlocks rather than being afraid of whatever other things you're afraid of. It's just operating in, fear-based thinking is just, it's a
Yeah.
dead end road.
If anything, this gives you the opportunity to be way more productive with your life. Like it is a
Totally.
tool,
And
and
creative. It's fucking fun.
really
Like
fun.
just this morning, I just had an idea for like an image of like, oh, what if someone was like driving down the road, and they saw like an image of this like weird witch like levitating in the sky at night. And I don't know, it probably took me 15 minutes and I came up with the version. It's not quite there, but like I just had this idea driving, home from the coffee shop and now I can just go do it. Amazing.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
maybe it'll
How
turn out
long would
well,
it have
maybe it
taken you
won't. I don't
before
know.
AI?
Yeah, I just I would have had that idea before, but I'd be like, well, I'm not going to spend a week and thousands of dollars. Like I just would never pursue that idea because I just couldn't.
Right.
So now you can just pursue whatever ideas you want. And I would just, anytime you feel yourself sort of getting fearful, flip it and, think about how you can approach it, from the perspective of being excited about the creative possibilities instead.
Yeah. Well, dude, thank you for bringing the optimism here. Obviously, technology's coming whether people like it or not. So, it's all about building and just to
Yeah,
keep
have fun with it. Build shit,
yeah.
make stuff. Like, don't worry. It's going to be fine. Don't worry about it. Like, I remember one of the best things. So, my son is like almost 3. And there's so much of like the conversation about parenting. Everyone's like, so much of it is so negative, where everyone says how hard it is and rah 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 and all this kind of stuff. And one of my best friends, who coincidentally also like a Mexican Catholic Republican, we've been friends for decades. He has 4 kids, And I was kind of stressing. He was like, "Oh, dude, it's gonna be fine. It's not as hard as people say. Like it's easy. Just wipe his butt, feed him. That's about it." Um, and so I was really like grateful to hear that because I kept that in mind, and it was, I wouldn't say easy necessarily, but it wasn't bad like everybody says. And it's like there's nobody telling you the same thing about AI. It's like, guys, it's gonna be fine. Like, don't worry about it. It's not gonna take your job. It's not gonna like it's just another fucking program on your computer. That's it. It's gonna be fine. So just learn how to use it
Yep.
and make shit, and don't worry,
If
it's gonna be
anything, this
fine.
empowers individuals and puts you at a greater, gives you, it makes the playing field a little bit, more even.
Way more. Look, every big company is so fucking behind the curve on AI. Like,
Yeah.
I have friends who are like, designers at, Fortune 500 companies you have heard of and stuff. None of them are using AI in anything close to like a leading edge way at all. Like, cause they can't, cause, it's like selling, adopting anything inside a huge company takes forever and blah, 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 blah. So they're way behind the curve. You as an individual with $100 worth of AI subscriptions can do shit that is better than what a Fortune 500 company can do with a team of 20 people, like, or 50 people. Like,
Yeah.
it's really true because they're slow and you don't have to be.
Yeah. Dude, thank you so much. I appreciate your time, man. I know you got to cut off here. Yeah. So is there any like final last words, that you have for people on this topic?
I like what your friend said of build, don't bitch. Just make shit, have fun with it, and everything's going to be okay as long as you do those things.
Awesome, man. All right, cool. I'm going to drop you backstage real quick and I'll catch up with you in just a second. All right.
Sounds good.
All right, guys. Thanks so much again for watching tonight. I thought this conversation was great because he brought some reality to the subject, and he's speaking from experience, which I think he's one of the most experienced guys out there. He's had, a lot of success in his life designing things, and there really is a lot of reason to be optimistic here. So, I think moving forward, that we have nothing but good times ahead. So I will see you guys again next week. Good night.
Coming from